Mikor kezdjem majd szól?
5, 4.
Hello everybody, this is Borbala Banto CPA. Today is Friday, February 8th, 2019. This is our fourth Facebook Live. Coming to you from Brecksville, Ohio, from our boardroom of concierge CPAs. This is a CPA and business advisory firm that I run with my brother, who is at the technology part of the table. And if you're watching this video, then most likely you know us from somewhere. Either you're a client or one of our networking partners. First of all, I wanted to put it out there that we are so thankful for everybody who's watching this, even for just a couple of minutes or a couple of seconds. We are really thankful. We had kind of like these Q&A calls on a different platform last year, and we just started trying Facebook Lives so people don't have to register and do all kinds of things. So we're really thankful for you if you are here, especially that it's Friday now. We changed it to Fridays at 6 o'clock, and believe it or not, I just got a call from a good friend of mine in our Senate. He's a CEO of a pretty sizable company. We send out a reminder about this, about like half an hour, 45 minutes before the call. And he calls me and he says, is this a typo? Is this a mistake? Do your viewers like not have a life that they want to watch this on a Friday? And he just made me laugh. But we made him call us, and it was a touch point. So we are trying to tell people you can rewatch these, even later. You don't have to be on the call Friday, 6 o'clock. But if you're driving or, if you're working out and you don't have anything better to do, then please listen to us. We welcome everybody. Usually we get a lot of our clients or, somebody who's just interested in what we do. We are not a very typical CPA firm. I have to tell you, we were called Not Your Father's CPA in one of the articles that was written about us. Trying to really not just focus on compliance and helping you with the IRS, but a lot of tax planning, a lot of interpreting the numbers and helping most of the time business people, small business basically, the SBA says, the government says, anybody, I think, below $5 million, maybe with the big government, it's everybody below 20 million, but like for us, everybody below $5 million revenue a year. So that's a lot of businesses. So we work with majority of our clients are below $5 million, a lot of white collar professionals, a lot of law firms, but a lot of other clients as well, consultants, home-based businesses, where we really try to help them understand their numbers, the metrics, making sense of the financial piece of their business. If you do have a business, then you know that a lot of times feels really alone when you have to make decisions in the business. It is not easy to tell your friends, your family about what's going on in the business. First of all, they don't understand because they are W-2 employees. Second of all, you don't want to share if you're struggling. If it's really going well, then again, you don't want to boast. So a lot of our clients use us as kind of outsourced CFOs for their business. That is coming in or logging in and talking to us for an hour and two every month, where we study the financials and answer all kinds of questions like, is it time for me to hire another employee? Are the employees efficient enough? Is my pricing correct? I think a couple of weeks ago I mentioned examples where we really helped somebody just get hold of their pricing, and it made a huge difference in their business. So it's not just about filing your tax return and seeing your CPA once a year. If somebody's interested in that, most likely we are not the right choice. Actually, it's just funny. I got a call from a new real estate investor last week. And he calls me and he says, somebody referred me to you and I just need a K-10. I said, I'm so sorry, there is no such thing as K-10. So we realized it's K-1. So he says, I just need a K1 from my business to give it to my personal CPA, and that's all I need. I said, yeah, we are not just, there's no way just to get you a K1. Basically, a K1 is just a byproduct of a real estate partnership tax return. That's what you need. But just giving me the numbers and me putting them on, hopefully in the right boxes, usually it's not enough. We can do so much better. So come in, let's talk about it. Let us see if we can save you money. What's going on? Do we have to change how the entity is taxed? Are you maybe missing some deductions that you're entitled to, but you didn't even think about them? So that's basically why you should use us. And this guy was like, no, I just need a K1. I said, okay, there is a market for everything, and maybe we are not the best for you. Because I don't think that we do, as CPAs, we do our jobs right if we don't do, like, holistically, we don't view the business. And this last year we had so many clients coming in. Oops. That was my phone. So I have yet to see one example where we just have a very clean-cut numbers to put on the tax return, and there would be no way of helping this client, either realizing something that they forgot to put on the expense line, or getting them better financials, or just like pointing out something. I've yet to see an example like that. So there's always room. So that being said, I wanted to mention, maybe I mentioned this before, we do have a monthly colored printed newsletter that we send out, and the January issue was mailed January 9th, 10th, and it just reached majority of our readers yesterday. We got it yesterday. I heard somebody from New York who got it like a day before. So if you are on this list and you just got the January one, that's why. It was the big polar vortex. There was nothing we could do about it. And also now the February one is in the mail as well. So we just got our copy yesterday. So if you get two of them in a week, that's why. We try for our tribe to get it like early in the month. If you would like to be on this, then just shoot us an email. It's support@conciergecpas.com. You can find the email on our website. Also, you can leave a comment or you can message us through Facebook. Now, I have to tell you, nobody really needs another lawyer or CPA newsletter. That's what my marketing mentor told me, a while ago. So this is not a canned newsletter, and there's really nothing boring about it either. We do the pictures, we write the articles, we really work hard on them. They do not sound anything like a regular, this email newsletter that you would get from your financial advisor or CPA or your lawyer. It is like a bunch of case studies and just fun things, like this one says, do you have an expensive hobby or a business? So just things that, real life examples that we encounter. Then we do have client of the month. Again, it's not boring. Something about like this young guy is in it this time. It is like really interesting questions. Now we do have like events, and when roundtable calls are the Facebook Lives, and also when are we available for coaching. And then we do usually have a good business book review, or like a tax related article, but really it's not that boring. It's nothing like, if I could read this or understand this, I would know the tax code. So if you want a copy, it's a monthly thing, then let us know. Also, it's tax season, so if you are one of our clients, you should have gotten the big envelopes in the mail, a reminder to make your appointments or upload your information. Just get in touch with us. Now we already have about 25, 24 clients who already brought in everything. Actually, we are still waiting for a couple of tax forms to be available in the tax software. So not even all tax forms from, for example, the local authorities are final at this point. But we are in the midst of preparing the business tax returns for sure, because the deadline is March 15th for that. So especially if you have a business tax return, that means partnership, corporation, S corp, then you just really have to get going. If not with us, then with your own tax preparer, because this is like really really crunch time. Personally, you've seen me have chocolate and wine here before. Now we're trying to do the vitamin C, so I have fruit here today. We started working like 16 hours and just really taking care of stuff, calling the IRS at 7 o'clock. I mean, this is gross, but this is like a real example. I just told my brother about this. Like literally, I was in the restroom at 4:27 when I realized, oh my goodness, I think I had to call a local tax authority, and I think they close at 4:30. So of course I have my phone with me, like everybody else in the 21st century, in the restroom. So I'm just sitting on the toilet. I'm dialing the number. It's like 2 minutes passes before I can get to somebody, and then he puts me on hold. So that's how I had to take care of business, literally, like all kinds of ways. Talking to the tax authorities, at least it was not a client. Talking to the tax authorities because I knew that I needed an answer before Monday morning, and this is Friday. So I had to take care of stuff. So we really are like using every moment when we are awake, for our clients. I do have copy of not the latest, but the tax code. I just wanted to show you, because this is when people say like, oh, you just put a couple of numbers in the tax forms. Now you know that the tax forms change and the tax law changed. Now the new tax bill has 1,097 pages. This is the tax code. Now the regulations that actually tells you what to do with these 2 volumes is like, how many volumes is that, Laz? Like maybe 10. So it's like thousands of pages. So just think about it, that it would be enough for somebody to walk into H&R Block and have their like information. Now I'm talking about business. So if you do have a W-2, please use TurboTax. I mean, even there are situations, or use H&R Block. But if you do have a business, there's just like no way that it is enough for you just to write down a couple of numbers and that's it. And there's no other way to for you to be more proactive and strategic about your taxes. There's a statistics out there of how many millions or billions of dollars U.S. taxpayers pay their taxes. Now, sometimes it comes up when it's especially election times, that the small business people or the small taxpayers, the regular taxpayers pay so much in tax versus like the big corporation. I just saw an article a client of ours shared today on Facebook that supposedly Netflix, like the last 10 years, didn't pay tax on this. Like last year they had $850 million profit, and how, I mean, that was the title of they didn't pay tax, or zero tax. But then in the article it was a little more complicated than that. But here's the thing, they do have attorneys and CPAs working on their tax strategy throughout the year. So it's not just automatic that, oh my goodness, I made $850 million and then I can just walk away with 0% tax. All these, I don't like to use the word tax loopholes, but all these tax strategies, they're out there. They're not like on a platter. Nobody says it's just like a W-2 that it just comes, like whatever taxation, the tax tables calculate, I'm getting it. So there's just so many things that you're entitled to that you don't even know about. So do yourself a favor and just at least get a strategy session, get somebody who's proactive and strategic to look into what's available for you, because most likely you're going to overpay your taxes. And just imagine this. For example, I talked to these 2 ladies last week and I told them about this tax strategy. We went through it. I told them how much net savings they're going to have this year, 2019, and also going forward. And I said, I know this feels confusing, overwhelming, but we're here to help you. And they said, yes, you're right. I mean, we understand. And they're highly educated ladies. But I said, this year you're only going to save $3,800 between the 2 of you. But you know what? That's almost $4,000. and maybe they can take a couple of days vacation that they were not able because of the $3,800. Totally legally, and that's a net savings. And if they grow their business, this is just gonna be more. So that's about that. And just how this changes, just to illustrate it, we got an email even earlier this week about some new regulations coming out about one section of the new tax law, which is the section 199, or you also hear about QBI, qualified business income. So even now in tax season, it's like 14 months after it was signed, the IRS is still coming out with, this is how we think you should interpret it. So this is a living and changing organism. It's not just, it's not in stone. Usually your situation is changing. Business is always growing. There's never constant. Either you grow or you go down, but you're never at one place. So there's always different things that you can use. Yeah, I talked about who we serve. Most of the people we serve are just business people or professionals who have investments. There are a lot of tax strategies there as well. But again, it's we are kind of like the Mercedes, of the CPA firm. So you are really gonna be taken care of all kinds of ways, when you come to us. So that being said, I have a couple of questions that came to us. So I don't want to keep a lot of people in front of the screen on Friday evening. So I'm just going to start reading them and answering them. Please put comments in on the screen. Like our page. You can put comments, or if you liked it, or if you would like us to talk about other stuff. We are really open, to change this. She says, hello, Borbala. We are in the process of getting ready for our meeting with you on the 13th. That's great. Actually, that's next week. We have a few questions regarding our phone and internet towards our businesses. Our phone bill is $250 for 5 lines. What cost should we enter for the 2 businesses we have? And our internet bill is $85. What cost should we enter for internet? So husband and wife have 2 separate businesses. This comes up a lot. Very easy solutions, right? It used to be that when we had these long telephone bills that listed every call and we paid by the minute, then we had to add together. The IRS wanted us to add together the business minutes. Now most people have a flat phone bill nowadays. So what I usually suggest to people are 2 ways. If you are the just have, like, say, 2 lines, split it between husband and wife. Here they have 5 lines. Now there could be an argument that the first line is like $150 and each additional line is $10. There could be an argument, but otherwise I would just say split it into 5. How much one line costs. Now also, and I want people to document this, right, in just little Word documents. Keep it in your tax folder. And a side note here: everybody should have a not like a paper file for their taxes, but somewhere online, like a Google Drive, Dropbox, or some secure cloud server where you keep all your financial data, tax data. We use Dropbox for business. We use ShareFile, secure server, and especially when clients have access to this, it works so great. And I might have mentioned this, have a subfolder for 2018, have all your tax documents in there, have business bank accounts, credit card statements, each month listed under that. You're going to thank yourself if you're audited 3 years from now. And it's like, where's my IRS? The first question is, do you have an accounting system? Do you have financial statements? And do you have statements for each business bank account statement and credit card? And it's just so hard, to try to get them. So do yourself a favor, have a cloud server, because you don't want your laptop to fry, or your computer to be stolen, or something happens to it and there goes all your data. We did have a client where they had 5 years worth of data on a laptop. It fried. It took them maybe 10 years to recoup. Like, they haven't filed taxes because the data was on the laptop. So until they were constructing all the data. So do yourself a favor, get a secure, again, whatever secure means these days, place, have all your documents there, the documents for company, Secretary of State filing, EIN number, if you have an S selection, everything, a signed copy of your tax returns in there. If it's Saturday night and you're refinancing your mortgage and you need it, you don't have to wake me up. Or if I'm, on vacation, you do have a signed copy, like actually scanned back, signed copy of the tax returns in there at your fingertips. So that's really the best practice. So if your CPA doesn't give you that, just ask them for it and have everything there. Now coming back to our question, you could have notes right in there. So IRS would say, how did you choose to have $50 per month for your phone bill for the business? And you would just show them this document, and IRS would ask, when did you document this? Was it like yesterday when you received the audit notice, or back 3 years ago when you actually put this on the tax return? And it looks so much better if you could say, here, I have a Word document where documented. Again, it could be on paper and scanned back or whatever. It doesn't have to be electronic, but it just helps you. We documented that our bill is $250. We have 5 lines. And here's another step that I would document. If this is a family that has a bunch of kids and they talk, and the kids are older and they have to call them, I would really even split the one individual's $50 into business and personal use. And I would document how I came up with that percentage. I just talked to somebody who was single, and they said, I don't have a spouse, I don't have to call them. I really think 95% of this bill is business. Okay, that's reasonable. The IRS wants you to have reasonable and customary expenses. Again, as a side note, I did work on a tax return. This was a law firm years ago. And I look, before they hired me, they had me look at the previous year's tax return. And I look at it and it says phone bill, $180,000. Miscellaneous, $175,000. And it was not like this millions of dollar firms. It was a couple of $100,000. So $180K for phone, it was ginormous. And I said, what? Who prepared this tax return? And I look up the CPAs and they're retired. So I said, oh, thank God, at least maybe they're okay. But I don't know how this tax return was not audited. So again, just check what's on your tax return because you are signing for them. You are signing, even if you're CPA, and I really think that was a shady thing. $180,000. That would be a red flag, if I would be the IRS's computer. And also as a side note, 99.9% of the tax returns will not see a live person looking at them, but the IRS does have this very sophisticated computer systems that sees and registers what's on it. And they have these huge databases, of course, with millions of tax returns. And if yours is kind of in line, it's customary and, regular expense, it will not the computer will not spit out that tax returns for audit. Most of these audits actually just picked out by computers. So that's why working with somebody who actually knows, what is a red flag, what is not a gray flag, or, what's okay, it can save you. Now, I would never tell a client if they have a legitimate expense. If that, let's say they are in a telemarketing, right? And they have 100 people talking on the phone and their phone bill is, $100,000 and we have documentation and we know why. Of course, we're going to put it on. It's, even if it's a red flag, they're asking us about it, we're going to show. But so I'm not saying that anything that's out of the ordinary should not be on the tax return if it's a valid expense. So here I would say determine that percentage of that one line, your line, fees that is business. Write it down how you calculate it and just times 12 and put that on the tax return. Also, if you're using, and these clients actually they just became clients, they are using QuickBooks. Now, again, if this bill was not paid from the business checking account that is connected to QuickBooks, so actually QuickBooks, the financials do not know about this, then what we call is a journal entry. A manual journal entry is required, which just means pretty much you could write yourself a check every month or every quarter or year end where you document this, that you're reimbursing yourself personally for 95% of this one line's expenses for phone. And the same thing for the internet. For the internet, I would tell people like, okay, two spouses, what's half of the bill? And your half, just imagine like your half, is it 85% business, 50% business? Yeah. Also, everything in tax is a picture. If I have good number of clients where they're trying to sell these like the vitamin juice plus, and they're just starting out, right? They get a 1099 income for $5,000, and they come in with this huge list of expenses. I went to this conference, that conference, travel, sample products, marketing materials, and the expenses are like $20,000, and the income is $5,000. Again, if there is a very good argument that this is every of this 20K is business expense. I'm just starting out. I'm just starting big. I ordered all this marketing material, and I'm getting ready to take it big next year. Absolutely, we're gonna put it on the tax return. But I will look at all those numbers more carefully and just ask the client about more documentation and talk to, because I don't want them to get a red flag or audited, because half of it might not be business. But again, it could be a lot of examples when it is. I do have clients who are in this type of business, and they have $150,000 1099 from selling these products. So just imagine if that client says, oh, I spent $20,000 traveling around the country and going to conferences. It's a different picture. 150K income, 20K expense, versus every year the last 10 years I had $3,000 income from selling this thing, but I want to deduct 20K expense. But again, I don't want to give the impression that Borbala would not like to deduct valid business expenses. So yeah, that's what I would suggest. These journal entries, actually, there's a way to enter them into QuickBooks and just have these expenses be part of the financials. Then will be the base. These financial reports, income statement and balance sheet will be the foundation of the tax return, right? And that's another thing. And I mentioned this before. Everybody thinks that QuickBooks, you just get it, sign up, pay the $30 or $60 now. If you have a CPA who has a wholesale license, that you pay half. Like all our clients pay like $30 plus sales tax versus the $60 plus sales tax that's advertised. And they think that I just get it. We had a client this week for QuickBooks Bootcamp, right? This young guy, attorney, so sweet. And he was supposed to come in and us getting QuickBooks together, and he comes in and he says, oh, I already got it like a month ago, and I even connected my bank accounts. And we look at it, and he had no idea how to use it. He did some stuff, he had no idea, it was not correct, chart of account was not what he wanted to say. Like, okay, let's start in the beginning. Intuit is so great in their marketing, letting the whole world know you just get it and you have beautiful financials. I wish it would be true. I wish it would be true. That's what I wrote about in this article, actually. The first things first, that if you can just, if I may just quote one sentence, I have to admit that for a while you can get away having no books. You can get away with having no clue about your numbers, costs, your profitability, or the lack thereof. But make no mistake about it. Nobody ever built a sustainably profitable business without having good books and knowing their numbers. So kind of the same thing. Like you need good books. You need good financials. It doesn't matter if it's QuickBooks or Gusto or on paper. Now, not Gusto, Xero. I wanted to say Xero or paper. But there are these steps that we think we can just skip. We can't. A lot of QuickBooks that we see, most of them who do not have a good chart of accounts, they are just really bad. And so people think, oh, so I have to get ready for my tax preparation, and I have to get all these numbers together. If you would have your books really, be in a good fashion in QuickBooks, your tax return basically is just a mirror of your QuickBooks financials. Just think about the income statement. income from all sources, revenues from clients, minus expenses by categories. You should see the same thing listed on the tax return. And if the bottom number, the profit, does not agree with each other, there has to be some reconciliation of why. And that's exactly what we give people. So there's always like so disturbing. We had a couple of clients coming in this way. Like previously, they had to look at like 3 different systems to get numbers together to their CPAs for the tax return. And I'm reviewing the tax return, and a new client asked me, so where do you think this revenue number came from? I said, that's the problem. I don't know, because your books were so bad. They should be in QuickBooks gives you a great report, income statement. What was your revenue from clients? What was the expenses? You should see everything that was on the tax returns in that one financials, versus here you had all bits of pieces of information. I have no idea how to tie back together because I didn't do that yearly tax return, but I can tell you for sure from now on, this is going to be different. Your QuickBooks is going to be so clean that you look at the tax return and you're going to ask me, so what was the rent? Where was that number coming from, or marketing, or dues and subscriptions? And we can pinpoint to QuickBooks on another screen and click on it, and it will just show you everything that you spent in that category that year. So that's what everybody should really have. That's when you have control of the numbers. Coming to see your CPAs is such a frightening experience to a lot of professionals. I was at a networking meeting once for lawyers, and there was this lady, attorney, who came in a little later after everybody introduced themselves, and she sat down next to me and just asked me, like, what do you do? And I said, oh, actually, I'm a CPA for attorneys. And she literally did this. And she looked at me and she said, oh my goodness, that's the only time I feel stupid, when I go to see my CPA. I started laughing. I said, thank you very much for that feedback. I really appreciate it, because that's so in line with what a lot of people feel, but it should not be like that, right? So they are just so doctors, attorneys, they're so highly educated, and they feel, quote, stupid when they go see their CPAs. Why is that? It should not be like that, right? But here's the problem. Nobody goes to school to learn how to manage their firm. I went through law school and was never offered a course how to manage a small law firm. Then I became a CPA in the US. Nobody even offered a class of how to run a CPA firm. And the same thing about, real estate school, or, plumbing school, or, all kinds. It's just something that you have to develop. Now, I wish that there would be, when you register an LLC, it would come with a big warning, please do yourself a favor and just learn about financial management. This is a good example. We have a client who is, has a bachelor's degree, very intelligent, and has to get a certain license, trade license, doesn't have to do anything with financials. And he said, this particular state, in order for me to get a license there, I need to pass a couple of tests, and one of them is taxes and accounting. And he had to enroll into this class. It was $2,000, got a big books, and just he's been studying. And luckily, he's an educated person. And he just says, oh my goodness, now I start to understand a lot of things that you've been telling me about. Now I understand my QuickBooks, I understand depreciation, that, Laz was telling me about depreciation for years and how it works and what it is. And I really didn't comprehend until I had to sit down for this test. So I said, I really have to get that book from you and tell all of our clients, start getting. But kind of this is what we do for clients if they're, with us for a longer time. Nobody tells you really need these things. You really need to know about sales and marketing if you have a business. You need to know about how to run the business and managing the employees and just operations. And you need to know about financial management. But, that's why our clients have us. Oh, tax-related question. So this is a 1040 client, and he says, because I said, we are almost done with the tax return. And he said, wonderful, but I have one question. Do we or can we submit anything about education for deductions for education? Now, this client has 2 high schoolers. So I had to tell him, unfortunately, even like private high school, there's no deduction. Now there's a new law in the new bill that you can use 529 plans, college savings plan for K-12 private education without any penalties. Before that, you could only use it for higher education, but there's no credit or deduction for paying for private elementary or high school. Now there is a credit for bachelor's degree or associate, like higher than after high school, but unfortunately nothing for before. I think I mentioned this before. When you contribute to a 529 plan, which is a college savings plan, that deduction, what people say like, oh, you can save on taxes, that's on the state side. Every 529 plan is tied to a certain state. You do not have to contribute to your state's 529 if you find some better run 529. 529 plans basically are just like little brokerage companies, not little, they're huge, and they invest your money. Not sure how much say do you have, I don't think you have a lot of say about what to invest it in, but it's kind of like a brokerage account, right? So they're going to get dividends and interest and capital gains, and the account is going to grow. When you do put money in for your kids or grandkids or any other relatives, then you're not going to see any deduction or tax savings on your federal IRS tax return. If you contributed to a plan that is the plan of your state, like we are in Ohio, if I contribute for my kids' 529 plan in Ohio, I can get a deduction on my Ohio tax return. So why would people do this? All the growth, especially if you have like a newborn, right? And I said this before, have your godparents for the kid's birthday, friends, everybody, like instead of buying your kids gifts, just tell them to contribute to your kids' 529 plan. And all that growth for 20 years is going to be tax-free if you're using it for higher education. I had a grandma here today. We prepared her taxes, and she brought in 3 separate forms where she contributed to the 3 grandkids. And every year she does that, and I just love seeing her, that even she's retired, she does this, for the grandkids. So it's a great thing. A totally unrelated question, but it comes up sometimes. What is the best VPN service according to you and your other clients? This client of mine went to Italy. It's going to stay there for a while. We use ExpressVPN, right? Like we use ExpressVPN. Again, no advertising or anything, but it worked for me when I was in China. But there are a good number out there. If I would use it when I'm using my laptop anywhere where it's not at home, we use a VPN service, especially if you log into banking and even QuickBooks, it's better. Okay, this is an interesting question. We hired a housekeeper at the end of the year. Last year we paid her $1,437. Do we need to report it? Now, short answer is yes. If it's a household employee, that there's a Schedule H. If you want to learn more about it, let us know. But basically, kind of like you have to give that housekeeper a W-2 from you personally. So if you do not have a company, even you personally, you have to give somebody a W-2 if they do work for you in your house or any type of work. It comes up with household employees and also like home care employees a lot. We have a couple of clients where they have nannies working in the home, or they have home health care professionals working, and so pretty much you have to give them a W-2. Now, IRS wanted to make it easier for individuals, being in this situation, not having to register for all the tax agencies, so you can actually pay all your payroll taxes on the Schedule H at the end of the year, and then issue a W-2 to this person. Now, I would not recommend anybody do this alone. Pretty much, there are even online payroll companies who do specifically household employees, Schedule H household employees. So I would use one of those, or your CPA. Now, there's a different question, and sometimes there's an argument that my business is in my home, and this particular person does, admin also, or also housekeeping for the business. So how much of this pay should be split between business W-2 and household? I would really look into it more and document it so everything is legal, but it's the best way for the employee. Now, if they're really employees and they come regularly, I would see that the IRS has an argument about this person not being a 1099 employee, not 1099 subcontractor. So if they really come to your house regularly and do work there, the easiest way for people would think, just give her a 1099. I don't like that idea. What if something happens to them? You don't have workers' comp coverage. So if something happens to them in your home, again, it could be a big liability. So if they are W-2 employees, then you can get workers' comp. It might not be expensive either. They're covered. You have peace of mind, and that's the most important thing. Hello, Borbala. I have opened a checking account for the business. Let me know when can I get QuickBooks so I can connect them. Okay, that's good. So we do that a lot, as I mentioned, when people have the Secretary of State registration, then with the state, that EIN number with the IRS. Next thing is get QuickBooks. We recommend Essentials or Pretty Much Plus. That's what I would recommend. Wholesale, so you pay half of what's listed online. And it says, I need to create an Ohio Business Gateway account. I need to apply for vendor's license for sales tax. Yes, in Ohio, every state is different. In Ohio, if you sell something that is sales taxable or provide a service that is sales taxable, then you need to get a vendor's license. And the most important thing, even if you do not have any sales for a while, make sure that you know what is the frequency you have to report it. So even if it's 0, let's say I wanted to start a business, I ask for a vendor's license, but I don't do anything for 6 months, I still have to report either monthly or every 6 months, whatever they tell me, if I had 0 sales or reportable service. Services is actually, it's funny because a good number of services are not sales taxable, like legal fees. So when we invoice somebody for accounting fees or legal fees, there was a question, but still we don't have to charge sales tax. If somebody who repairs computers or snow plowing, photography, I think they do have to do that. So if there's a question, call your state or county and ask them, this is what I want to do. Maybe I do provide a service that's not sales taxable, but I sell something, right? I sell something on the side. Then, I still have to do it. So it's better to double check. There was a question regarding Section 125 plan. It does not, I asked this person, do you have one? He said, no, it doesn't sound familiar. If you are a business who has employees and provide a company health insurance plan, I would have thought that every health insurance broker, most likely you went through a health insurance broker, they would ask, oh, by the way, do you want to set up this Section 125 or sometimes called cafeteria plan or some medical plan that makes the premiums that the employees pay before tax versus after tax? I would assume that in the 21st century this happened, and this is a law firm and it didn't happen. I just asked them, hey, you had health insurance, you provided health insurance for employees for a while. Employees do contribute a certain percentage. It should be pre-tax. And we start looking into it, and the broker says, no, they never set it up. Again, strategic, proactive advising. So I wish we would have consulted about this a year ago. We would have saved these employees, maybe a couple of $100 a year. That's a lot of money for an employee, right? Especially like an admin position, 25, 30, 35K a year. $400 or $500, that's a lot of money. So if you're thinking about a company health insurance plan, ask them, is there any way this should be pre-tax or even like dental or vision? It costs basically nothing other than setting it up than to have this plan that's just like it's a document that you set up once, and then update it. Maybe you have a company that updates it for you if there are new laws, and that's what it is. But then again, if you're not proactive, if there's nobody who looks at your stuff and advise you, you don't know. And you're cheating, your employees out of a couple of $100 each, right? So if you have 10 employees, it might be $4,000 or $5,000. Again, the law gives you opportunity to do it, but nobody's gonna tell you, hey, why didn't you do it? This is how it's done. Because if nobody looks at it, or they are not proactive, it's not gonna happen. Okay. Now this client says, should we pay this $250 penalty, or is it get taken care of? I wanted to bring up this question because if you're changing from a single member LLC that's a disregarded entity to a partnership, this might come up even this year, and this is the time to fix it. This particular client, husband and wife, started doing business together, but mostly the husband set up the LLC and everything, and they were operating as a single member LLC, taxed as a Schedule C on their personal tax return. And then last year, this time, we start talking, and they said, pretty much my wife does like most of the business stuff now. And I said, it should be taxed as a partnership then. You have a 2-member LLC now, right? I said, yeah. And also, if there are profits, why don't we show the profits under both their names, right? So the wife can get some, tax paid into the Social Security system, and this year count for her as a year for future Social Security benefits. And they agreed with me. But by the time we got there, it was like March 16 or 17, so we did not have a way of filing a extension for a partnership, which was due March 15th. Now, how they were taxed before, the due date was April 15th, so they were not technically late. But because we changed to the partnership tax return now, we filed on March 24th, they were late. They got slapped with a $250 penalty by their state. So I knew that I could call them, and that's what we did. We called them and explained the situation to the tax department, and they said, I sent in some documentation, faxed it over, we did, and it was abated. It was waived. So again, you might not have to pay certain stuff if you know what to do about them. So you never should just like pay something because they might not be correct to start with. I read an article about like how many thousands or like tens of thousands of notices are not correct, and people are just like, especially if they have to pay the tax preparer or their CPA to look at them. It's like, by the time I pay my CPA's time, I would just better pay this invoice. And it's the IRS anyway, so I don't want to deal with them. That's why I didn't like the model when I started my firm. Didn't like the model of clients having to pay for every phone call or email. So we went on this yearly kind of a membership model that what you pay us covers everything. So I don't want you to be like hesitant to call us, email us, send us anything to look at, because then problems just escalate, right? So we really, we just want to hear about it right then, because it might be, sometimes it's like thousands of dollars that they are waived. I'm working on a couple of cases with the IRS right now where just never gonna pay the penalties because they're not right. But again, somebody has to do it. So usually they open at 7 Eastern. And I just wake up early and be on the phone 7 o'clock because that's when the line is still, not too long. So this is about due dates. Hi Borbala, I hope all is well. My husband was wondering when our documents will be ready. I know we discussed a time frame, but I forgot. Thanks. New clients, they have a partnership. 2 ladies have a partnership, started a business together, but each husband has their own CPA, personal CPA, and this comes up not too many times, but then they're waiting for the partnership to be done. So again, if you have a business, first the business tax return has to be filed, and then you do get K1, what's called a K1, kind of like your W-2 from the business. It's called K1. with showing your share of the profits or losses, and you have to take that to your personal CPA, right? So you do have to get your stuff ready, and most cases where we work on business tax returns, we do have QuickBooks. This is another thing I like about QuickBooks. You know, even if we didn't set it up, you had it before, there's a way to invite your CPA to accounting firms or accountants, and we see everything. You never have to, like in the old times, people had to make a backup of their desktop QuickBooks on a CD because it was too big to email. So then they brought in the CD, and we had to unpackage it. Hopefully we have the same version of QuickBooks, and then we had to unpackage it. We looked at it. We got the information of how to fix it, but we couldn't fix it in there because that didn't translate to yours, or we had to repackage it and give it back to you. You couldn't use it until we were working on it, because then the two versions are going to clash. That's over. That was 20th century. Today, somebody can call me. I see the same thing in real life on the internet. I don't need a software or anything. I just need internet. That's the only thing I need, electricity and internet. And I can fix stuff. And she's watching me, or he's watching me over the phone, and just fix them or show them this is how we do it. And it's taken care of. There's no back and forth. It's just great. I love technology when it works. When it doesn't, that my brother has to come. I said, "Alas," and he has to come to my office and sitting on the doorway, and it already fixes itself. So if nothing else, I have to have him just sit stand in the doorway, because then I'm okay. Okay, we have a few minutes left. So this client says, "Hope all is well. I just faxed you some of my tax papers to file. I have bills from odd and ends and heat fixings that I have done last year. So, and can you please give me a call later today so we can discuss attorney bills?" So I chose this question because we get this question a lot, like, "Oh, I had to fix my boiler, my furnace. I had fixings in the house. What about I had to repaint the house or get a new roof? What is deductible there?" Now, we used to have about 10, 15 years ago more generous home residence credits for buying new stuff. They're not as good now, but there's still something. So just fixing stuff in general, if I would have to say one word, no. But you can still get stuff if you buy a new furnace, if it's energy efficient, like the highest efficiency. If you buy windows or doors, they are this highest efficiency. Insulation, roof, there's still some stuff. So that's why you should really talk to the CPA who prepares your taxes and not just drop off stuff without question, because then those are the things that come out during the talking to you of, okay, did you get these efficient windows and doors and stuff like that. But yeah, fixing stuff usually doesn't work. And also the attorney bills, now it used to be that it was one of the lines on Schedule A itemized deductions. So itemized, again, the IRS says, used to be, let's say married filing jointly, $12,600 standard deduction. Or if you itemize, meaning you have expenses in the following categories, whichever gives you the highest deduction, use that. So standard, I'm renting, I don't have mortgage interest, I don't have property tax, I didn't donate money, I don't have medical bills, I use the standard. Now that standard deduction right now for married filing jointly is $24,000, so it doubled. Itemized is if I have mortgage interest, property tax, again, donations, taxes I paid on the city and local levels, and if I reach the floor on the medical expenses. Now, used to be the fifth category here was miscellaneous, either deductions, either unreimbursed employee expenses, tax prep fees, financial advisory, and legal and professional fees that were tied to income. PO boxes were in here. Financial advisory fees I mentioned. So most of these went away. So if somebody does not have a business-related attorney bill, I really don't think that we can use this anymore. There were other restrictions on the itemized as well, but if somebody really had like a high legal fee tied to getting income, then this was great until last year, but then starting this year they cannot use it. So they might be one of the cases where actually the new law brought something not too good for this taxpayer. Now, we finished a good number of tax returns so far. Half of them got more refunds, half of them actually had to pay more. So I'm really curious to see what's going to be the average by the time we finish tax season. And you could be like, I'm on the side where I lost with the new bill. Again, I'm as proactive and strategic as I can with my situation, but as one of the maybe unintended circumstances where I'm gonna lose, I'm gonna pay more tax under the new law, but a lot of people actually are gonna benefit from. So I hope that we're gonna have more clients in that bucket. Okay, last question, and this is just, I wanted to single this out just because I like how proactive these ladies are. This is the ladies I mentioned. Hi Burbala, are you eating lots of chocolate to get through these tax weeks? We can bring you a survivor kit if it would help. We were talking about your points from our last meeting, and remember that we have to make a decision of becoming an S Corp or not. We are overwhelmed by this decision. I know you are not surprised, and we need you to just tell us if this is what we should do. Be our mom and tell us what to do and how to make it happen. And so since then, we exchanged a couple of emails. I went through the S Corp strategy, send them documentation and citation from the code and everything, and then they said it's still, yes, it's overwhelming, but let's go for it. So I wanted to finish with this, and just if you remember, just one thing is these things need to be tended to, just like a garden, just like with everything. I read this quote a long time ago that any possessions, anything you have, just needs somebody to tend to, needs energy, needs time, needs devotion. So it's the same thing with your finances. It's not just a coincidence. It just happens by itself. It really needs to be looked at, just like a garden. And then it's when you see the flowers, and that's when you're not putting yourself in harm's way or potential liability. You can still sleep well, and I can sleep well signing your tax returns, but we know that we did not leave a lot of money on the table. Again, we are never like too aggressive where this is like so aggressive. Pretty much we know we're going to get audited, but we're going to defend you. There are situations, like most of my situations are not like that, most of my cases. I mean, there's a time and a place for that as well. But why leave a lot of things on the table, right? Why not just talk to somebody? And this is what I should have started with. I tell clients that our average is to get you 3 times more benefit than what our fees are. So pretty much I'm not costing you anything. I'm just actually printing you money. And that's just a fact. That's just a fact. I would never recommend a strategy that does not have a net savings that you know about before we start, right? And there's sometimes where there's just no strategy, like if you have a W-2 and you don't own a house, you don't own a business, you're single, yeah, maybe not. But again, even there I could see things. Even there we get questions of, is it better for me to lease a car or buy a car? Help me figure it out or compare. So even there are a lot of questions. But otherwise, do yourself a favor and just be proactive about your taxes. This does not mean like watching me on Friday evenings, for an hour. It just means reaching out and have somebody in your corner, have somebody in your advisory board that you can reach out to when you need to. Somebody who knows your situation, and just everything you tell them is confidential, and they are judgmental. They will not judge you. They will not scold you. That's what we try to do. So with that, the hour is up. We are going to be on next Friday, February 15th, the same time. Happy Chinese New Year's to all my friends, if they're watching, who are celebrating Chinese New Year's. We did have a great feast basically on Tuesday at Chinese New Year's. Amy, one of our associates, she cooked like Monday evening. She's just like cooked, went to the grocery store and brought in all this great food that we're still actually every day we are just still eating from it. And we had a couple of clients in, from China and otherwise. So everybody who celebrates Chinese New Year's, happy Chinese New Year's and prosperous New Year. Other than that, let us know if you have any more questions. You can reach us at Borbala@Concierge CPAs or support@Concierge CPAs. If you want to make an appointment for a complimentary consultation, you can find the link on our website, conciergecpas.com. I think there is even on Facebook, there's a link to it. And I do have any questions, Les, or anything? No. Okay, so stay warm out there if you're in the Northeast, and see you next week. Bye-bye.